This is Brian Purdy with the Florida Aviation Network. Today, we're going to be talking with Major Tyler Hoover of the PA office for the National Blue Beret at the Civil Air Patrol. We're going to talk a little bit about what the Civil Air Patrol does at Oshkosh and how important their job is to the safety and continuation of a good air show. Good morning, Tyler. How are you doing?
Morning, Brian. Doing well.
Good. Well, as we said, let's just jump on in. I think everybody sees a little bit of Civil Air Patrol and the cadets around an air show, mostly just marshaling the aircraft. But I'm sure there's a lot more than that, and it's not just something that anybody can do off the street. Please tell us what kind of training the cadets have to go through, and anything else you'd like to share.
Yeah, gladly. Well, obviously, we're probably most well known for marshaling the aircraft. We kind of stand out a little bit in those orange vests on the flight line. But we actually do a lot more than just that for EAA AirVenture Oshkosh. Some of the other duties that we do include site security and crowd control up at Warbirds. Normally, we also are doing that at the ultralights runway down near the South 40. We're also doing search and rescue during the entire air show. So we're looking for ELTs that may have gone off from hard landings. We're looking for overdue aircraft that have not closed out their flight plan, just so that we have the best accountability for everyone who is supposed to be at the air show we can. And obviously with the ELT side, trying to make sure that anything that's not an emergency gets shut off as quickly as possible in the event that there is an aircraft that goes down either at Oshkosh or on its way to Oshkosh. As for training, we get there about a week before everyone else. So we are there multiple days in advance of the first aircraft that show up for the air show. We start doing our training in flight line marshaling, in urban direction finding, radio operations at that time, so that we get all of these people. I think this year we had about 130 cadets from across the country and about 40 senior members like myself there. And so we get there in advance, do all that training, make sure that everyone has the same base level of understanding. And we rely very heavily on our senior staff who've been there for many years, as well as returning cadets who have attended National Blue Beret in previous years.
Great. Of course, I don't think their real training just begins when they show up here. I'm sure it's years of training. It's just that the familiarization with the area when they get here.
Yeah, for sure. As most people are aware, Oshkosh rules are a little bit different than most places. And so we make sure to get them trained up on just how things work at that air show specifically. And as you said, many have prior experience doing flight line marshaling, doing search and rescue, urban direction, finding things of that nature. But we want to make sure that, regardless of whatever that background is, we want to make sure that we provide a good base understanding, just in case, there may be some discrepancies and some variation in how things are done across the country. And we also make sure to get them trained up on the specific equipment that we're using.
So you mentioned that the cadets come from across the country. How are they selected? Are they just volunteer, or they have to do some competition to be expected to know what the job is and how well they need to do it?
So National Blue Beret is one of a couple dozen what are called National Cadet Special Activities, or NCSAs, that Civil Air Patrol has. And they vary from things like Blue Beret. We have a few that are related to Space Force familiarization, pilot training, everything from that up to model rocketry, medical training. So it spans a very wide swath. As for Blue Beret specifically, it functions much like those in that cadets are given the chance to apply. There's about a month-long window at the end of December, early January, where cadets will put in an application. And then National Headquarters will rank cadets for every NCSA based off of the amount of time they've spent in the program, what their rank is, and other criteria, just to try and give everyone an equal chance to go to activities, while also providing priority to those that have done more in the program, those that are older and maybe aging out soon. And so once we get that slotting from national headquarters, it comes to our staff, and then we're able to slot alternates, in case someone gets sick or isn't able to make it, or decides to go to a different activity. We have a list of everyone else who hasn't initially been selected, and we're able to prioritize based off of how quickly they get all of their training done in advance.
Okay, so is 130 cadets, now it's cadets and senior members, or?
It was about 170 total. So it was 130 cadets and 40 senior members this year, roughly.
Okay. So is that that number determined by the size of the event, or is that pretty much what you would want to have in any event for sufficient to have sufficient personnel?
Yeah, so that number is definitely lower than it's been in the past, mostly due to COVID concerns. We're a little unique at Oshkosh. We actually have a building. So we're all living in a barracks right next to each other for a little over 2 weeks. And so due to COVID concerns, the number's a little lower than it's been in the past. I think now it's roughly around 160 to 180 cadets is our maximum. And that's just based solely on the amount of beds we have available. We're currently working to get new bunk beds that will hold more cadets. And so we're trying to grow that number. Obviously, the more cadets we have, the more we can do to support EAA, and the more fun they can have. And then we usually have about 50 seniors on average as well.
How many, do you know how many applied for this year to participate?
That number, I don't know. In the past, it's usually around 700 or 800, I believe. So National Blue Beret is definitely one of the most sought after activities. I'm obviously biased. This was my 5th time there. I think it's the best one. But no, it's a very competitive process. And any cadet who gets to attend, without a doubt, usually comes away very impressed by it.
And what are the ages for cadets for the Civil Air Patrol?
So in Civil Air Patrol, you can join as a cadet at age 12 and stay in up until you turn 21. And so I joined personally at 15, stayed in until I turned 21, and then switched over to the senior side. With National Blue Beret specifically, we require that all attendees be at least 16 years of age. And that's mostly just due to Wisconsin laws, as well as we want to make sure that we have slightly more mature cadets, given the hazards, given the risks inherent with running an air show and being on a flight line. We want to make sure that we have people that are composed, that are able to handle themselves well, just primarily for their safety.
Okay, great. Now, I've talked with a couple of the cadets. One in particular, she could have been vying for your job as far as a recruiter. What would you like to say to any young people or potential senior members today that might help them make the decision of where they can help out with the Civil Air Patrol?
Yeah, I think you kind of nailed it. It's all about helping. It's a volunteer program. We don't get paid. Our entire purpose is service. That's the entire crux of what National Blue Beret is. We have something called the Blue Beret Creed that all of the cadets learn. And the entire theme that we're teaching them throughout this 2 weeks isn't just the air show. It isn't just emergency services, doing marshaling, looking for ELTs that are going off. It's a leadership activity. And our purpose as senior members and as for the cadet staff is to make sure that those cadets go home better people than they were 2 weeks prior. That's the entire thing that we're focused on. I think we do a fairly good job of that. I've seen the way in which this activity and just Civil Air Patrol in general has changed lives. And so I think the one thing that I would say to anyone who's heard of Civil Air Patrol, who's interested, who wants to know more about it, is check out a meeting. It's a ton of fun. There's so many unique, rare, amazing opportunities you get to do. I've experienced so many of them myself. So it's a fun time and it's a great way to give back. and to make sure that you're helping out your neighbors when they may need some help.
That's great. I just recall when I first got into the Civil Air Patrol as a senior member years ago, because I didn't know about the cadet program, that they said the biggest secret about Civil Air Patrol is Civil Air Patrol.
Yep.
Which, so hopefully we'll get some more word out this way, that this is something both young and the older ones can do and participate, enjoy it, do something beneficial.
Yeah, there's been that long-running joke that Civil Air Patrol is America's best kept secret. As a public affairs officer, I'm not a huge fan of that slogan because that means that we're not doing our job very well. So we're hopefully this interview will help change that.
Yeah, Tyler, thank you very much for spending some time with us today. Look forward to talking with you in the future, maybe some other events that'll come up that I'll be able to cover also, and maybe even meet in person someday.
Yes, sir. Well, hope to see you at Oshkosh next year.
Yeah, great. Okay. Once again, this is Bryant Purdy with the Florida Aviation Network with Major Tyler Hoover of the Civil Air Patrol, recounting the adventures of AirVenture 2022 at Oshkosh. Have a great day.
Now, let's hear from a Civil Air Patrol cadet.
Have you been in Civil Patrol for a while?
Yeah, I've been in for 5 years now, which sounds really weird saying. But I actually was in an air show, the Arlington Air Show up in Washington, and he was like, hey, do you want to learn how to fly? And I was like, yeah, I want to learn how to fly, little 11-year-old me. And he was like, well, Civil Air Patrol is a program, you can do that. And I was like, okay, cool. So 5 years later, I'm here.
So are you looking forward to an aviation career, a military career, or a combination?
So a lot of cadets in Civil Air Patrol come in with the aspiration of going into the military, aviation, engineering, cybersecurity. And then there's also another chunk of cadets who come in because they just want to become a better person and a better leader. And that can apply to many, many different jobs. And then there's also a lot of cadets who come in because they want a little bit of emergency services experience, so like search and rescue. I've had a lot of friends who've gone into becoming an EMT and later start getting their nursing degree. And then I've known a lot of cadets who've like enlisted in the military and etc. So this is a great place to get that start. For me personally, I have been going back and forth with careers, but this has been an excellent opportunity to do career exploration in terms of military, because I know I went to one activity and I got to talk to people from every single branch and really get their perspective on how it was like for them and get an understanding of how I could join there. And it's also been an excellent opportunity to see different aircraft and being able to understand the different careers available to me. Civil Air Patrol is the United States Air Force Auxiliary. How I like explaining it to people is it's basically a program for youth that's dedicated to teaching them about aerospace, emergency services, and leadership. Aerospace, in terms of a lot of people come in because they want to fly. So we have flight academies, which is like a week-long camp where you can learn how to solo. You get 10 hours of flight in there. Outside of that, we have a lot of flight scholarships. We have this one scholarship called Cadet Wings, where you can get a full ride scholarship and they'll pay for everything for your private pilot's license. And then just outside of that, you're just surrounded by people who are trying to get their PPL. And by that, you get different tips from them and etc. You can also get flight hours in via having certified flight instructors fly Cap planes, because that means you don't need to pay for the certified flight instructor, so you're saving like about $100, though you do need to pay for the plane. And then there's leadership. A lot of people say that Civil Air Patrol is like a leadership laboratory. So you come in and you go through leadership classes, you go through leadership books. There's activities where it's just leadership classes and learning how to lead. And then there's other activities where you get to apply all those skills. So you have a team and you need to learn how to work as a team. And then you have people in charge of those teams. And you, in that position, need to figure out, okay, how am I supposed to lead? And then there's emergency services. We have a lot of activities that will get you qualified. And for everything ranging from survival to being able to use a radio to being able to use drones. So it's all over the place. And it's awesome. We also have a lot of National Cadet Special Activities, and that's where the fun stuff happens. NBB right here, National Blue Beret, where we help support YAA, is a National Cadet Special Activity. We also have one called Specialized Undergraduate Pilot Training Familiarization Course, which is kind of a mouthful, but you get the opportunity to spend about a week hanging out with people in the Air Force, going through their training to become an Air Force pilot, and you yourself get to kind of experience a bit about how that would feel like. Some cadets even got a flight in a T-1 and a T-36. Yeah, it's amazing. Honestly, Civil Air Patrol would definitely recommend looking into it.
As you can see, the Civil Air Patrol is doing a lot more than just marshaling here at their adventure. It's one of those things where you get to do a lot of different things rather than being stuck at one job. So the variety helps keep everything going. The learning experience is such that when they leave here, they'll be able to do the same job anywhere and help everybody else. So it's a great door to open for the young people, and I would highly recommend it.
Yeah, recruiting happens everywhere. We're always trying to get people to join because we're trying to share what a great program this is. I would say if you're interested in joining, go civilairpatrol.com, and on there it'll walk you through all the steps.
And this is Bryant Purdy with the Florida Aviation Network.